This conference will now be recorded.
Morning, guys. So last week we seen the fundamentals of PowerShell, right? All these variables, loops, conditions, and then some commands of PowerShell working with files as well. So it gave you an idea how to and what are the things that you need to learn any programming language script basically. Okay, similar concept you can apply on any Python or Perl, whatever it is, if you want to learn it. Okay, that's so as simple as it is. But the real work will be on learning the commands. See, it's a ocean. If you take any programming language or any scripting, right? I mean, no one can learn even 2% of any programming language script because there will be lakhs of commands or classes that are available to be used. So it's all based on your requirement. Based on the requirement, you need to know the commands and then you need to apply your logic. To apply your logic, you need to use the loops, variables, and conditions, and you also need to know how to use the commands. So as long as you know, you can go and you can go and learn from documentation and use the appropriate commands to fulfill your requirement basically. So apply this analogy anywhere. Okay. Now, since we know how to use commands for non-cloud items, let's see how you can work with Azure Cloud. Okay, how do you manage Azure Cloud resources from PowerShell? Okay, so for connecting to Azure Cloud, all we do is we go to dev.azure.com, right? And then you have to give your user ID password. Of course, I already logged in. That's the reason it did not ask me. But you have to give user ID and password, right, for this. Okay. Similarly, okay. Similarly, if you want to work from PowerShell to manage Azure Cloud, you need to connect your PowerShell ID with your Azure Cloud as well. That means you have to use the same credentials to work with your Azure Cloud as well. Okay. So for that, first let's go to PowerShell ISC. As I said, if you want to write a script, it's easy with the PowerShell ISC because from command prompt it's not easy to write a script basically. Okay, you got it. If you want a command palette, go here and click on show command add. So it will come slowly. Okay. Okay. So if you are using PowerShell ID first time, and if you're trying to use any Azure commands, okay, like let's say I want to fetch all the VMs that are there in my Azure subscription. Let's say Azure VM, get AZ VM, run this. You can see in the bottom. So it gave me some, let me disconnect from here because easy. I think it still remember my old account. Okay, now I got an error. No subscription found in the contest. Please ensure that credentials provided are authorized to access Azure subscription. Then run the command. Okay, so for if you are using it, if you are using ID for the first time, you may get an error. Okay, other than this error, you may get an error saying that hey, the command is not available in your PowerShell environment. Okay, let us say, as I said, connect AZ account. If I say or get AZ VM, any AZ means Azure. Okay, any AZ commands, you will get an error, command not available. If that is the case, we need to use this command, install module space hyphen name space module name AZ and space allow clobber space scope and space all users on your laptop. That means if you run this command, it will go and install the PowerShell AZ module, and everybody who is logging to your laptop will be able to use that. This is similar to when you are installing any software, it will ask you, is this software only for you or for all the other users who are logging into this laptop or server. So what is that error that you get? Okay, so when I run, let us say in the bottom, you see get AZVM, and it is saying the term get AZVM is not recognized as the name of a commandlet, cmdlet. So what it is, hey, I don't know what you are telling. That's what it is. That's what PowerShell IDE is telling me. So that means the Azure module is not available on your PowerShell environment in your laptop, basically. That's the reason I used this command: install module hyphen space hyphen name space AZ. That is the module name. And similarly, if you want to install any other module, let us say if you are trying to work with IAS, if that IAS not module is not available, you need to check the name of the module of IAS and use the same command. Instead of AZ, you give the IAS module name. So this is the command. This is how it looks like. The error looks like this. And once you run this command, it will give you one prompt saying that, hey, do you want to install? You have to simply say yes or yes to all. Once you say yes or yes to all, and it will start downloading all the files from the Azure. Basically, you can see these are all the different files. It will PowerShell will fetch it from the Microsoft website and download it to your laptop or server, wherever you are running it. You can see downloading, installing the package AZ, installing package az.databox something. There will be hundreds and thousands. Okay, so run that command if you do not have it, if your laptop doesn't have AZ. Okay, now once you have it, since I want to work with my Azure cloud, I need to connect my IDE with Azure cloud. As I said, for that you need to use command called connect AZ account. Okay, just enter. Let's say it's right. It's you have to get the same credentials what you are using for your Azure cloud. That's it. Now you can see in the bottom the output, if you see, right, what it is giving. Once I run this, what is the account name? My account name is hasura86 at hotmail.com. What is the subscription name? Pay as you go. If you remember, while I'm creating my virtual machines, I used to select the subscription, basically pay as you go. And Azure internally maintains some IDs internally, which you will use it as part of some of your scripts if you want, if there is a need. So the tenant ID. So this is subscription name, this is a tenant ID, and what is the environment? Azure cloud. That's it. So if you see this output, that means you are able to connect to your Azure cloud. Now you can work with any commands that are any resources that are available in your subscription in Azure cloud. So since I did it already, I just comment this one so that every time it will not allow me. For commenting, you need to use the hash in PowerShell. Okay. Now let's say I want to get all the virtual machines. Okay, you can click on tab, then it will adjust all this casing here. Now you see capital G, capital A, etc. If I run this, it will give me all the commands. You see all the virtual machines that are running in my laptop, in my resource group. You can see resource group name. What is the resource group? QARG, and front-end server 1 QA, front-end server 2 QA, and in which location? West Central US. What is the VM size? What is the Windows operating system type? And what is the NIC? This is related to your networking. Okay, provisioning status. It is already succeeded. So that's how you can query. Similarly, you can query anything basically. I'm not sure what are all there. Get Azure disks. You can see it gives you all the disk names. If I move it here, you can see QARG. Sorry, let me put it. QRG, and it is managed by some subscription. Complete URL you can see. What is the SKU? SKU means model name, basically. I mean, in any e-commerce or e-commerce, basically you will see product. It is product identifier. Okay. OS type, hyper. So it will give you all the details about your Azure disk, basically. Okay, where it is, any tax available, etc. Okay, that's how you can connect with, and you can create a virtual machines from PowerShell. You can create, you can say add everything, but you need to know how to use those commands, basically. But no, but this is difficult to work from here. That's the reason we do it from portal. Okay, okay. So now you know how to connect to Azure Cloud and start working on manipulating or modifying your Azure Cloud instances as well, or any resource, basically. Okay, now you can, as I said, you can start VMs, you can start stop VM, etc. You can delete all CRUD operations. Let us say I want to start some. Let me go here. First, let me log into portal.azure.com. Yes, I created my virtual machine freshly. Because there were 3 4 days gap, right? I don't want to pay for that, basically. So that's the reason you see the name difference. Front end server one QA. Okay, let me click on this. Right now, this is in what status? This is in stop put, right? Let me start it from the PowerShell. Okay, generally I start from here, right? Let me start from the PowerShell. So let me hash it. So for starting virtual machine, it will be start is VM, and then space resource group. You always need to give the resource group. If you don't know what are all to be used, then what you do? You you come here and then start AC AC. You can see. See, it is asking the name of the server, resource group name. It is asking minimum. Okay, that's it. So if I don't know anything, what I do? XYZ ABC something, and then run it. So obviously it gave me an error, basically. So take this. Okay, instead of name I have to give my server name, front end server one hyphen QA, and resource group name is QA Archie. Okay, if I run this, it will start my virtual machine. You can see, I mean, here start AG, name of the server and name of the resource group name. Okay, and so you may think that, hey, if I have hundreds of servers, I cannot give it manually, right? That's where you will use your for loops. First, you will get all the servers in your resource group, and then run one by one. So for that, first you need to get all the servers using get azvm, and use for loop to go through each and every virtual machine that are returned by this get azvm, and start the virtual machine using this command, basically. So how do you do that? Let's go here. So this is the let me take this. So this is for starting one virtual machine. If you want to see it, you can run this. Okay, run this. I just ran it. You can see the bottom. It takes a second. You can go and see the. Sorry. You see, it succeeded. Front end server one QA. Let's go and see here. Let me. refresh this. You see now this server is running, right? Generally I come here and see, and you see the notification here. Now there is no notification here because you did not start it from the portal, you started it from the PowerShell. Okay, similarly if you want see once the command is executed, you see some status like this basically. Okay, succeeded, when it is started, when it is ended. Took approximately 21 seconds to start your to start your server, and there are no errors. That's what it is saying. If you want to do it multiple, then you have to do. So what I'm doing, first I'm creating a variable dollar virtual machine. You can give any name, and I'm using this command get AGVM. So obviously, as I said, your variable type will change based on the output. It is dynamic variable basically. If you are giving some integer, it will become integer variable. If you are giving some double, it will become double variables. Giving string, it will become string. If your output contains array of list of variables, list of data, then it will become an array. So this is flexible in PowerShell. So now what I'm doing, you already know, for each command, for each virtual machine, you can give any name here. In list of virtual machines, in this variable dollar virtual machines, what I'm doing, I'm trying to run this command. See, the I have three commands. One is, first I'm writing to the console saying that a virtual machine started, virtual machine separator. I'm just trying to format my content on the console, what it is going to be. So virtual machine name and virtual machine status code. And after that, I'm starting the virtual machine the same. You see, start AGVM name. Instead of hard coded server name, I am taking the name from the virtual machine variable. Okay, and then resource group name. You can, okay, uh, you can hard code this one, or you can take it again from the resource group. I mean, you can query for the resource groups basically. Okay, how do you query? You can go and see basically. Let me cut it. Okay, get ag, sorry, you already have here, I guess. When you get agvm itself, you got the resource group name. You see, you can take from here, or you can take it in multiple places. If you go and google it, right, how to get a resource group name from PowerShell, you will get hundreds of materials. It's just one command again. As I said, it's not easy to remember each and everything. How to retrieve Azure resource group from PowerShell. As simple as that. So it is a get AG resources only. You can see here. Okay. You can create a variable $rg equal to. If I want to display this, I want to $rg. Now run this. See how many resource groups are there. I mean, I generally created one resource group, QARG, right? Apart from that, there are many resource groups are created. Resource group name, you can see the resource group name. This is the one I created, QARG. But there are many many things created. QARG VNet, okay, front end server QAIP, front end server one QAIP. So what are these basically? uh, you are using, you created one resource group of QARG. Based on that one, Azure cloud created many resource groups to contain the, or to categorize the IP addresses, network security groups, your disks, etc. That you can observe it if you go to your portal basically. You can see these are all not created by me. Let us say resource front end server one QA. It is for the disks basically. Okay, network watcher RG. This is to categorize all the network related elements into resource group, QARG basically. Okay, so likewise you can get resource group names as well. Okay, but let me quickly start this basically. Okay, so that we will have something to learn. For the time being, my resource group is a QARG. Let me do this. So what is this going to do? Let me clear this. It is going to get all my virtual machines and start one by one. So before start, it will write this to name of the server and status code onto the console, and then it will start it. After that, it will write this statement to console again. Virtual machine started and the name of the virtual machine. Okay, let's run this. Screen is clear now. Virtual machine front end server 1 QA. Okay, it is saying okay, it's already started basically. First letter, sorry, first line basically. So it is already started, that's why it is very quick. We can see virtual machine started, front end server 1 QA. Now it second virtual machine, the code is running. Virtual machine, you can say hyphen hyphen, it's a arrow mark, front end server 2 QA. It is also okay. Now it is trying to start the machine basically, front end server 2. So now this is also started. You see, virtual machine started, front end server. It is for our information basically. Okay. Now if you go to PowerShell, sorry, uh, no, let's see the front end server to QA. There is some issue here. It is saying troubleshoot this. That's okay. It will generally go away. Sometimes it comes. So, but you see the status here. Okay, running basically. So you started from the PowerShell. Okay, and likewise you can stop it as well if you want to stop it. Same one, but you say stop. Okay, and here you can make it stop. That's it. Now again on this, it is saying, hey, this will stop the specified virtual machine. Do you want to continue? Because you are using a developer environment, right? It will warn you basically, because sometimes you may do it by mistake as well. Okay, yes, but if you are doing it from a script without IDE, it will not ask you, because that's a scheduled one, not a human. So it is going to stop it basically. I go to virtual machines, front end server 1 QA. You see it is deallocated. Okay, if you go to QA, I think this is still running. He's saying us, yes, I have to say yes. For the second server, front end server to QA. Okay, it may take see how much time it took, almost 55 seconds it took to stop it actually. You can see here start time and end time. Yeah, it's done. It also took almost 52 seconds. You can see here, right? Okay, now both are stopped. Say virtual machines. You have to refresh it sometimes. See, these are deallocated. Okay, the resource group and everything you can see. Now what you do, let's go and okay, this is how you can work with your Azure cloud resources or your file systems or anything from it IDE. Basically this is for the developers during the development phase, but generally you run all these scripts from the your release pipeline, or you will save the scripts. Let us say this is the script, right now it is not saved. You will save it and run it as a background job, isn't it? Or you will run it on demand whenever you want. So now first let's go ahead and see how you can run the scripts from Azure release pipeline on set of the servers or on a specific server. Okay, now let's go to our pipeline. So we have our release pipeline. So this is a new release pipeline, right? Which one? Yeah, this is the one. Okay, now let's go and edit it. Okay, so far we have all these things, right? Okay, web deployment and then API deployment, and we have Selenium as well. Okay, now before this I just want to disable these things basically. Okay, I just don't want to run these things. Disable because now my demo is not about deploying the things. Basically I want to demo the PowerShell. Okay, now in QA, so let me remove these tags as well. Web, and remove these tags as well. Okay, and I want to disable, I don't want to deploy anything here as well. Disable all these things. Okay, it is to save my time from the demo. Okay, nothing other than that. Disable, disable. Okay, now let me save this. So how do you run a PowerShell script on a number of servers? Now our QA deployment group have two servers, right? Let me go and go to deployment groups in another tab. This is a QA. So it is showing two offline. Okay, no deployment. As I told you, these are new servers I created. It is showing offline because we stopped them, right? Let's go and quickly start them from here itself. Okay, let me start this as well. QA server 2 as well. I already have the deployment agents installed before start of the class. That's why you see them in the deployment group. You can see the notification. Still it is in running mode. So let it run. Okay, come back to your pipeline. So how do you run a PowerShell script? Okay, you can go and add a task. Say PowerShell. There are many PowerShell tasks here. Okay, I'm going to run this command PowerShell. Run a PowerShell script on Linux, Mac OS, or Windows. Okay, we'll use other PowerShell task as well. First, let's use this. Go and add it. Okay, done. Okay, you need to configure this, guys. I'm going to disable these tasks as well. I'm not going to deploy anything to my IIS server. Okay, all I want to do is a demo of this PowerShell script. So now if you want to run a PowerShell script, the script have has to be available on the server, right? So you can see this is a PowerShell script display name, and there are two ways to run your script. One, if the script is already on the server, a target server, you give the file path. If it is not on the server path, on a server, and you want to run the script right from the release pipeline on all the servers, then you can select inline. Basically, inline means you will write some script here, and the script will be run on all the servers that are there in your web deployment group. That is, if there are 10 servers as part of this deployment group, your code will be deployed. After that, your PowerShell script will be executed. Right now I disable this code deployment because it takes time for the demonstration, right? I disable them. I'm only running the PowerShell script. Okay, what script we are going to write, you can do it. So for this example, what I'm going to do, so if you see, I'm going to take this one. Okay, let me explain what is this. Okay, this is a very general requirement. So if you're working, if you're doing any deployment, right, generally people will ask you, no, hey, I need to set admin privileges for this file or for this folder, like that. Basically, if they have any download functionalities, upload functionalities in the application, they will need to give permission to that folder for some account. Okay, it could be some IAS administrator account, it could be whatever is the user ID they are using, basically. Okay, that's the reason. So what I'm saying, so generally what you do, if you want to give some permissions, you will go to any folder, go anywhere. Basically, you go to any folder, and then I don't want to do for what I don't know, right click, and then properties, and then security. This is where you see all the users, right? Okay, and then you will go and basically edit it, isn't it? And will you go and add a user, you identify the user and add a user, right? If you are using if this laptop is part of any AD, it will show the, you can click on locations, it will see the active directory as well. But I don't have any connectivity to any AD, that's why it is showing my laptop name only, location as. Okay, this is how you will add a user and you give a full control, I mean, or only modify, read, execute, etc, and you will do it. And this is a typical requirement for any application, basically, was changing the file permissions. Okay, so you call it as a access control list, ACL. Okay, this is a generic name. What are you trying to do? First you are trying to, let me create a folder, November 1, where I am putting C colon, right? Let me put a November 1. Okay, I want to make a Hasura 86 as an administrator on this folder, basically. So what for that? First you need to get all the permissions of this folder. So for that you need to say get ACL, access control list, into this variable. Now I am creating a rule to add my user as a uh, to add my user to this November 1 folder with full access. For that you basically use a class called system.security.access control file system access rule. So in this, since this is based on the PowerShell is based on the .NET, right? Everything will be in the form of classes and objects. Okay, you will use this class. So in any programming language, be it Java, .NET, or anything, you will write all the code in the classes. If you go and open your sample project, also you will see the class, and then you will see all the code, basically. So you written some code, it could be a method. If you want to execute that method, then you need to create an object of the class, basically. That's how programming language works. Okay, that's the reason what I'm saying, hey, create an object of this class. Okay, file system access rule, and add this user with full access to that folder. Okay, right now I'm not saying anything to that folder. Right now I'm only creating an object to add this user to something, basically. Okay, I have a, now the object is created with the Hasura 86. Now I need to set that the access control list of November 1, basically. I already taken .acl access control list into $ACL, and then I'm setting the access rule with the one what I defined here. Finally, we need to run this command set ACL. First I define taken it and then defined it and then set it. Now I need to confirm that setting. Set ACL C:, November 1. If I run this, what it is saying? Some are, it is giving me some exception here. Dollar access rule is not okay. References could not be translated. Some or all identity references could not be. I think okay. My laptop doesn't have this user ID basically. That could be the reason. My user ID is. Let me check this. I just give me a second, guys. Let me do a control alt delete. Hmm. Anyways, I can try from any folder as well. It auto populated, right? Always. I don't type in the username. I think mine is purnachandra.k, my username. Okay. So if the user doesn't exist, I mean, obviously any programming language, it will give you a generic error basically. Okay. Okay. Now there are no errors. Okay. You can see it executed. Yeah. 1 point number one. Purnachandra.k. Okay. Now what you do, you will run this on all the servers from the release pipeline basically, but you need to give a valid user ID. Okay, let me see if my servers are started or not. Okay. Yeah, you can see started. Okay, what you do? Let me go to top. Take me the Let me take the virtual IP addresses, public IP addresses. Let me refresh it. I got it. Control C. So there is no copy here. Okay. Control C. So I'm logging in both of the servers. Let me close all these things. So I'm going to create a folder in this one because my script needs it. Go to server 2. So I created folders here. Let me see. Forgot this. Okay. You don't see Hasura 86 here, right? Okay. Similarly, on the other server as well. Go here, let's say security. You don't see Hasra 86. Okay. Now what you are going to do? You're going to run that script from here. Okay. Copy. Let me take the script from here. This you call it as inline execution basically. You can keep the script here and run it on all the servers. Okay. That's the reason it did not mention the server names here. How many servers are there in this deployment group, and in those many servers this script is going to run basically. Okay. Now simple, save this. Okay. And instead of purnachandra.k, because it will throw me error, give me also 86. Full control. Save this and then create a release. It's manual, so you need to trigger the deployment. You know that. Click on logs. Oh, you have some gates, right? Uh, Let me disable these gates. It will fail. Let me cancel this, guys. Okay. Sorry. Let me cancel this. Not here. I have here, I guess. Right. Let me disable this. Okay. Now save this because I want to make it quicker. That's why. Deploy. And to see both the running starting parallelly. Actually, it is downloading the artifacts. Even I can avoid downloading these artifacts as well if you want. If I want, I will show that how to do that. Okay, and both of the places PowerShell script is executed on both of the servers. Now go and see the. So there is no refresh, right? Let me open it again. Okay. Okay, you see Hasra 86 added here, right? Similarly, if you go to the other server, there is nothing here, right? Let me open it again so that it will be refreshed. You see, you have it here. Okay, so guys, this is how you can execute a same PowerShell script on all the servers using the task. Where is that? Let me go here using this task PowerShell step. Okay, the task that I give you is now you can take it as a homework kind of stuff. Okay, right now I created a folder manually on the servers, and you can think that it is an existing folder, and added the permission. Okay, but what you can do, you can extend this one for your lab purpose. You create a folder dynamically from the script and then use this script from here. Before this, you use a file folder commands to create a folder basically from the script. Okay, you can take it as a lab and do it from the first test it from your IDE and your local path and use it here. Okay, this is one thing. And so, and if there are 10 servers on this deployment group, on those 10 servers it is going to be executed. But there will be some cases there will be some type of scripts where you want to run only set of servers, not on all the servers. That means, let us say in your web deployment group you have 10 servers, okay, but if you want to run the script only on a specific server, you name it. Actually, I want to run the script only on server 1, that's it, or server 2, like that. Basically, at that point of time, you have to use another script, basically another task, that is add a task, again say PowerShell and target machines. The name itself is saying PowerShell and target machines. Go and add it, basically. So if the difference is, see, this PowerShell script, it only contains provision to give the name of script path where it is available on the server, or the script that you can write actually. If you see the run PowerShell and target machine, you can see you have to give the machine names as well, and then you have to give the user ID password. It is not going to use the web deployment group permissions. You have to explicitly mention all the user ID passwords and permissions and script, basically what script you need to you are going to use it on the server, specified server, basically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this server name. Okay, where is this other one? Front end server one. So the script that I'm going to use in my run PowerShell and target machine task is going to be running only on this front end server one QA. So it's not like this. You need to give a port as well here. So how do I know? You can see the machines here. You click this. What it is? Hey, provide a comma separate list of machine IP addresses or FQDNs along with ports. Port is defaulted based on the selected protocol. Okay. The port that you need to use the 5986. It has given an example. If you have multiple, you give a comma separated. If you have one, you can just give 5986. Okay. Okay. Let me give a colon 5986. You have to follow that format. And you have to give the user ID password. What is that user ID password I give? It's like this, right? 86. Give me a second, guys. Okay, so I need to give the password, since this is a, what do you say, password is a sensitive, right? You need to, you cannot type something like this. It is visible to everyone, right? Instead, what you can do, you can put it in your variables as well. Okay, so I'll put it here right now. See, so far everything is visible here. There is an option in your variables that you can log this one as well, so that no one can see this content. So how do you log this? If you're administrator, you will see this symbol. You click this, it will become a secret, basically no one can see this other than you as an administrator. Okay, so similarly I'm going to add my server password. I'm just taking a minute to type my password and lock it and then come back. Let me unshare my screen, okay, for a second. Can you see my screen now? Can someone tell me if you can see my screen? Hello, you can see my screen. I just started it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I added a password and I logged it so that no
Internet.
one can see. Server password, server PWD. Okay, okay. Now go to pipeline, go to task. How do I use that one? I have to use like this. You can see the, it will help you. Dollar and open brace, close brace, and the name of the variable. Okay, dollar open close. Inside that you have to give the variable name server PWD. Okay, now save this. Now what script I am going to use it? Okay, I'm going to make this script as a inline script so that I will write it from here. This time, I have yesterday I used one script, right? What is that? Kill processes. We can use these kill processes. Okay, copy. So what is this process? Hey, it takes all the processes into my processes variable, and for each process in this list of processes, if there is a process name called iExplore, okay, just kill that process. That's what it is saying. Okay, in my servers right now, uh, you can go and open this Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer process name is iExplore. So how do you know it? If you go to PowerShell, so this is what you do all the testing, right? Before you do anything, basically. Get so you have to go and look for here. What is the process name of your Internet Explorer? Or else, even if you Google it, it will tell you. Okay. So basically, this is a iExplore. Okay. I know that. That's the reason I given it. But this is how you can see it. Now you see on both the servers, I've opened Internet Explorer. Okay. Ask me later. You can see on both the servers, I've opened iExplorer. Okay. What is this? 51 and 91. Okay. But here I given only one server, front end server one QA. This is 51 server basically. Okay. Now the expectation is that when I run this script, it is going to be executed only on the front end server one QA, and the script here is that to kill the iExplore. Okay. But if I go and run it, it will give me an error basically. Okay. Let me disable the above script. So what error I will get it? So guys, for PowerShell script, I am using the permissions of the web deployment group. I mean the deployment group permissions because I already installed the agent. But if you use this run PowerShell and target machine, you it is not going to use the permissions of your deployment group job. You are giving explicitly here user ID password. That means you need to have some other first you need to I'll make some settings on the server to allow PowerShell execution from remote machines, basically PowerShell execution from remote machines. So that requires some firewall settings, etc. on the server. Once that is enabled, you need to make a network entry as well, port entry. See the way we allowed, remote desktop port 80, port 443 while we are creating the PowerShell machine, sorry, virtual machine. In the same way, you need to enable 5986 port on the server. After doing both of these things, you will be able to run this PowerShell script on the specified server. Okay, how do you do that? If you are Azure Cloud Administrator, log into your front-end server QA1. Where is that? Okay. Now This is all your administration activities that you can do it on a server, and this same pattern will be shown for each and every Azure resource here. Okay, before, I mean, if you are doing it on a, your physical server, then you need to do a lot of things. I mean, the same command that you will execute, but you see how many commands you need to execute. But if you are using a virtual machine like Azure or AWS, it will be easy. Okay, so in this there will be a operations section. Under that we have a run command. So basically I'm preparing my server to accept remote PowerShell execution basically. Okay, I'm going to say from here there will be something called enable remote PS. Okay, you just need to run this script. You can see all the script that is required. If you are doing it manually, if it is not your virtual machine, then this is what you're going to do it on your physical servers. Okay, so I'm basically going to PowerShell means it works on WinRM. Basically, there is a process called WinRM. It works on that one. You can see, you can read this. Basically, it is going to create some certificate and install it on this server as well. Okay. Now you simply go and run it. Enable remote PS. Once this is done, my server will be able to take PowerShell execution from another PC. It takes a couple of minutes. You can see script execution in progress. What you guys do without enabling this remote PS, you run that release pipeline. It will give you an error basically. Okay, script execution is complete. You can read this after this basically. It created an entry. After that, as I told you, the next requirement is go to your properties, server properties, and there is networking. Under settings, you have the networking. So already, see, we added 338 RDP access 44380 we added basically. All these ports are allowed. You can see. Okay, allow. Okay, and the bottom ones are not added by me. These are added by the Azure Cloud. I am going to add one more port basically. That port is to allow. So you can see source. It will accept from any source. Source port ranges. The source can be anything. Destination and custom is see if there are any famous protocols, it will be listed here. If it is other than this HTTP, HTTPS, RDP, etc., you need to use a custom. But mine is Windows RM. You can see there will be WinRM as well here. You can see when I say WinRM, it automatically you see defaulted that port to 5986. Okay, and all you need to do is you need to set the priority here. What is this priority? Just give me a second, guys. So on the left hand side CDC, for every port entry here in the networking section, we have some priority set 300, 320, 340, 65,000, etc. The lower the priority, the higher the precedence. Let us say I created a rule like this and I given as a 280, I mean less than 300, and I will say deny. Okay, instead of allow, I say deny. Then what happens? Though this 300 rule with 300 priority is allowing RDP, but I have another rule to disable this RDP, but that is 280. That 280 will take the precedence. Then it will, though I have the enable here, that 281 will take the precedence, and no one can do the RDP basically. So that's the reason. If you see 65,500, if you are giving any priority above 65,000, let us say 65,501, that means even though you mention allow here to for 5986 protocol or WinRM on your server, Since then the priority is above 65,500, it will not be allowed basically. So you have to give a less priority than 65,500. So I'm giving some 350 here. Okay, and then you give name as a appropriate name 5986, just for our reference. Add it. Now it is creating a port entry in my networking section. Now you see, where is this? It just created. Let me refresh this. I'm moving there and here just for refreshing. Okay, you can see here port 5986. This is the name I given. What is this port? Enable this 5986 port on my server, front end server 1 QA. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I did not do it on the server 2 basically because I want to show the error as well. Okay, now let me go to that pipeline. So let me do it as a 2 basically. Okay, why we can do it both together. Control comma and then make it as a 1. And where did I do that first? Server 1 QA I did that all the configurations, but server 2 I did not do it. Now let me go ahead and run this one. What happens? So for server 1 it should fail. For server 2 it should kill that browser, whatever you see here in the background. You have this, right? It has to be killed actually. Okay, now let me go and create a release. See the logs. Refresh. Is there something already started? It is still going on. Release 13. Okay, that's the reason. I don't have many parallel jobs, right? The Selenium is still waiting basically. That's the reason. Okay, stop this one. I don't have many parallel jobs. That's why it will be in queue. Now I stopped that job, previous job. It started executing. You can see. Front end server 2 started. Front end server 1 is also started. Run PowerShell and target machine is happening on the front end server 2. Front end server 2. Let me keep this like this. 251 is server 2, right? Let me check this virtual machines. 251 is server 2. Okay, good. Here also it is happening. Server 2. Putting side by side. Let it execute. If it is taking much time, means it is going to fail. Generally, it doesn't take much time. Let's see. Okay, front end server 2, I got an error, so that means it did not execute. So in both the places I got the error. First I did that settings on the front end server 2, right? Let me see what is this issue, because I felt that I did all the things. What did you say? Server name cannot be resolved, that's what it is saying. Connecting to remote front end server QA1. Okay, server 1 is fine. Okay, server 2, let's see, because server 1 anyways we did not set that WinRM permissions, basically port entry. For server 2 we did it. Okay, following error. Here also it is saying, why it is saying server 2, right? Let me do one thing, guys, just for a better understanding. Let me go and edit. Go here. For the time being, let me give only one server, so that I clearly know what is the problem. Save it. Let me check this. Click on this. It started. It will show me both the servers here, because both are part of the deployment group, but my script is going to execute only server 2, basically. 3 errors. Okay, let me check my password. Sometime my password will also become a problem. Okay, go to releases, variables. Guys, I'm just taking a second off from here. Okay, stop share. Hey, is everyone dropped off?
No, but I am there.
Okay, okay. Because I can't see while you are using it. I think we'll probably close this in a couple of seconds. Okay. Okay. Probably what we do. So, anyways, no one is going to use my machine, right? So let me check by giving the password directly here. Sometimes I may here, right? Let me give the password directly here. I will change it later of my password. Save this. Okay, and then if it still gives me error, then we'll check that. Is that previous one still going on? No, right? Okay, it's not going on. Okay, deploy this. It includes now administration activities as well, right? So, and we are doing it from fresh, so you can expect this here too. We'll give this try and then we can close this for today. We can resume tomorrow. Just let's try for this time. Server 2. What happens if I set up all these things before in hand, right? You will not be able to learn it. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I can set it up in the back end and then come and run here. It will immediately, be successful. But you will not have any learning path. Just wait for a minute. It should be done in a minute or so. Okay. Still have the problem. It is giving me still the same, same issue, but this is very generic basically. I set up this on the same server, right? Server 2 only. Okay. Okay. So let me do one thing, Lohit. So we'll close it for today. Let me check why this generic error is still coming. Okay. We'll continue this tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, Pratna.
Yeah. Thank you.